he gets transported to a world where humans have gone extinct and becomes the most overpowered. Hero, Shin was just an average high schooler who started playing a brand new VR MMORPG called The Gate. It was the most advanced game ever made and quickly took the world by storm. Players could explore vast lands freely, choose their own races, and hunt powerful monsters with their friends. For gamers everywhere, it was a dream come true. But one day, that dream turned into a nightmare. The servers suddenly glitched, trapping players inside the game with no way to log out. Even worse, when someone died in the game, they died in real life too. Panic spread everywhere. Shin, an experienced gamer, took charge and started protecting others. Determined to save everyone, he made it his mission to clear the game and free all trapped players. After months of endless battles, Shin finally left his home and companions behind to enter the final dungeon and face the last boss. The monster lunged at him, but Shin dodged, countered, and slashed off one of its wings. He thought this would give him an advantage, until the creature instantly regenerated both its wings and its HP. Realizing he needed to finish the fight quickly, Shin charged forward, unleashing a storm of rapid strikes. The boss barely had time to recover before Shin activated his special ability, enhancing his sword with incredible power. He leaped high into the air and struck the monster straight on the head, killing it once and for all. The moment the beast vanished, a system announcement echoed across the game. Final boss defeated. The game is cleared. Players could finally log out. Shin checked the player list and watched as names disappeared one by one. Once everyone was safe, he prepared to log out himself. But just before doing so, he heard a strange sound. Turning around, he saw a new gate, one that hadn't been there before. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to take a look before logging out. The moment he stepped closer, a blinding light surrounded him. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself standing in a grassy field, surrounded by open skies. Everything looked and felt so real. He quickly opened his menu, but the log out button was gone again. His heart sank. Checking the player list, he realized he was completely alone. None of the players from before were here. Frustrated, Shin cursed his luck but decided to stay calm and figure things out. Using his magic bird companion, he flew toward the location where his in-game house used to be. To his surprise, the house was still there. Before he could approach, he saw a group of thugs harassing a young girl nearby. They demanded to know where the elf was, but when she refused to answer, they dragged her toward the forest. The moment she stepped outside the barrier surrounding the house, a massive boar-like monster appeared. The thugs ran away in terror, leaving the girl behind. Just as the beast charged at her, Shin rushed in and killed it in one clean strike. He helped the girl to her feet, asking if she was okay. Grateful, she thanked him and invited him inside. When she asked what he wanted, Shin was confused. This was supposed to be his home, but according to the girl, the house belonged to an elf named Rai. That name hit him immediately. Rai was the beautiful white-haired NPC companion from his old party in the gate. The girl introduced herself as Tiara and offered to relay a message to Rai for a small fee of 1,000 silver coins. Shin, confused by the unfamiliar currency, handed her a gold coin instead, explaining that it was all he had. Tiara froze. A single gold coin was worth 10 million silver coins in this world. Shocked, she asked who he was. Shin calmly replied that he was a high human. Her eyes widened in disbelief. High humans, she explained, had gone extinct 500 years ago. That's when Shin realized the truth. This wasn't just another game. The world he had been trapped in was real, and it was now 5 centuries in the future. He thanked Tiara for the information and offered her the gold coin as payment. At first, she refused, but greed quickly got the better of her, and she accepted with wide eyes. When Shin asked about the giant monster that had attacked her, Tiara explained that she was cursed. She once had silver hair like every other elf, but when she was a child, someone cursed her, turning her hair black. Since then, monsters had been drawn to her, and the people of her village began to hate her. Fortunately, Rai took her in and used a magical barrier to protect the house. preventing monsters from attacking while they stayed inside. She says she plans to live her entire life inside the house, which is quite sad. Shin decides to use his magic to check her stats and realizes that it's only a low-level curse that happens randomly. He reassures her to stay calm and casts a purifying spell to remove the curse. The magic seems to work, but her hair only partially turns white. To confirm the results, Shin takes her outside the barrier. At first, she's frightened, but soon relief and joy take over when she realizes she can now live normally. She bursts into tears, thanking him deeply before they both head back inside. There, she hands him a blue envelope, explaining that it's a letter of introduction that allows him to enter the city as a VIP. Grateful, Shin thanks her and leaves the house to explore the new city and possibly learn how to return to his world. When he reaches the city gate, he realizes he doesn't even need to wait in line. He's allowed to enter without being checked. Once inside, he heads straight to the Adventurers Guild to register. While he's eating, the guild master approaches him and leads him to a private room to verify the envelope. After checking it, the guild master confirms that it's genuine and explains that this letter is extremely valuable. With it, Shin can travel freely between cities, stay at any guild, and even request a private audience with the king himself. He warns Shin to guard it carefully and not let it be stolen. Later, Shin encounters a powerful monster. He strikes first, but the creature blocks and counterattacks, forcing Shin to retreat. Realizing the monster is far stronger than expected and carries a legendary weapon, Shin charges again but barely inflicts any damage. His sword is nearly broken. Knowing he only has one last chance before his weapon shatters, he gathers all his power and delivers a devastating slash, completely destroying the monster. His sword, however, flies high into the sky and vanishes. Shin sighs in disappointment. He had wanted that sword, especially now that his own is broken. Still, he collects the crystal dropped by the monster as his reward and leaves the area for now. Unbeknownst to him, the sword lands inside the royal palace, crashing directly into the princess's chamber. Shocked, the princess and her guards fear they are under attack. Examining the weapon, she realizes it's a legendary item, something incredibly rare. She orders the guards to have it examined and to find out who threw it into the castle. Meanwhile, Shin returns to the city and finds a large crowd gathered around the bodies of slain soldiers. Curious, he asks what happened and learns that the soldiers had gone to investigate the northern forest after reports of people disappearing. They were ambushed by a terrifying monster that killed most of them, while the survivors barely escaped. When a guard asks if Shin knows anything about it, he lies, saying he was only out gathering herbs. After that, he returns to the Adventurers Guild, where he meets the receptionist, Silica. Inside, everyone seems to be talking about the northern forest. Apparently, monster activity there has increased dramatically. Shin reports that he defeated a giant monster called Skullface and wants the gem it dropped to be examined. Silica is shocked, but Shin casually continues explaining how the monster had a massive sword that went missing, while his own weapon was damaged during the battle. Silica scolds him for speaking so casually about something so dangerous, but Shin insists it was just a chance encounter and not his intention to fight the beast. At that moment, a green-haired elf named Elsa enters and asks what the commotion is about. Silica quietly tells her that Shin supposedly killed the legendary Skullface. Shin admits he has no proof. The items were too basic and the sword was lost. Elsa suspects he's lying and asks Silica to have the gem analyzed. Silica tells Shin to wait while she gets it checked. Shin turns to Elsa and asks whether monsters like Skullface often appear around here. Elsa explains that monsters are born from the grudges and sins of people who die terrible deaths. Since many people have died in the northern forest, it has become a breeding ground for such creatures. Normally, though, the monsters there are low level, so a Skullface appearing is a major mystery. Shin calmly mentions that this Skullface was level 359, shocking both Elsa and Silica. Elsa orders Silica to confirm the gem's level immediately, then turns to Shin, telling him that if he's telling the truth, he's stronger than a full party of A-rank adventurers. Shin simply asks her to keep it secret for now, and she agrees. Afterward, he goes to grab a meal. While waiting for his food, a tall man wearing a strange purple outfit approaches him. A man walks into the room, and immediately the entire place falls silent. Everyone looks nervous and keeps their distance. The man approaches Shin, placing his spear down beside him, a weapon Shin instantly recognizes as a legendary item. The man takes a seat across from him, introducing himself as Will. He casually asks if Shin is new to the city. Shin nods, saying he arrived only a couple of days ago. Will chuckles and remarks that the only reason Shin isn't afraid of him is because he doesn't know who he is. He explains that people call him the vampire because his spear has the power to absorb the souls of anyone who dares cross him. Shin remains unfazed, telling Will to just eat quietly since he has work to do later. That evening, Shin visits the library to learn more about this world. After some reading, he discovers that this world is nearly identical to the game he used to play, except that the race of high humans has gone extinct. This means he's likely the last one left, which could become dangerous if the wrong people find out. Meanwhile, the Guildmaster calls an emergency meeting to discuss the situation with Shin. They confirm that the gem he submitted truly belonged to a level 359 monster. One of the royal guards then requests to meet Shin, explaining that earlier that morning, a massive sword crashed into the princess's chamber. They suspect Shin might be connected, believing the sword could have belonged to the skull-face monster. Elsewhere, Shin sits near a fountain enjoying some snacks. He notices a small beast girl watching him hungrily from a distance. Amused, he offers her some food, which she gratefully accepts. While he wonders if she's lost, Will appears again. It turns out Will helps take care of children at the church's orphanage, and this particular girl often runs away when she's bored. He tells her to go back, but before leaving, she leans close to Shin and whispers, "Please, save the fox in the northern forest." Shin is confused by her words, but decides to investigate. The next morning, he visits Tiara's place and asks her to deliver a message to Rai. He explains that he's been trying to send it directly using his magic cards, but they don't seem to work with Rai's name. Tiara looks puzzled, so he demonstrates by stepping outside and sending her a message through the card. It arrives instantly, leaving her astonished. Excited, she asks if she can keep some of the cards, and Shin happily agrees. He then gives her an envelope and a sword, asking her to deliver both to Rai. The sword, he explains, originally belonged to Rai in the game. He had crafted it for her using rare materials dropped by mythical monsters, and only she could wield it. He instructs Tiara to tell Rai that if she recognizes the sword and remembers who made it, she should contact him. After that, Shin sets off for the northern forest to investigate what the beast girl mentioned. As he travels deeper into the woods, the fog grows thicker until he arrives at a mysterious, ancient-looking temple. Inside the shrine, he finds a small white fox lying unconscious within a glowing magic circle. Shin quickly examines the creature and realizes it's been cursed and poisoned. Without hesitation, he casts a powerful purification spell, cleansing the curse. The fox slowly opens its eyes, regaining consciousness, but something feels wrong. Shin checks his map and notices he's surrounded. Outside, an army of zombified skeletons approaches, each armed and ready to attack. He tells the fox to stay put, then draws a spear from his magical storage. With two swift, devastating attacks, he obliterates the undead army in an instant. After confirming the area is clear, he checks his map again, only to notice two more red dots. The two large statues near the gate suddenly crack open, revealing petrified monsters coming to life. Both are level 675, far stronger than anything he's faced so far. They attack immediately. Shin dodges and counters, attempting to trap them using Shadowbind magic. However, the monsters are too strong and release a thick, noxious fog that engulfs the entire area. The smoke blinds Shin and injures the fox. Struggling to see, Shin keeps evading their strikes, trying to find a strategy. Suddenly, the fox points toward the magic circle inside the shrine. Shin rushes back inside, and to his surprise, the fog disperses the moment he steps into the circle. With his vision restored, he casts his ultimate binding spell, immobilizing both monsters. Then, channeling all his energy into his legendary spear, he unleashes one massive, destructive thrust, completely erasing both monsters from existence. When the battle ends, Shin checks on the fox again. To his shock, his appraisal reveals that the creature is actually a level 211 elemental, one of the highest tier monsters in the entire game. Realizing how rare and powerful she is, Shin decides to keep the fox as his companion, a loyal partner who can accompany him on his journey to find a way back home. As they make their way back through the forest, Shin begins to realize that, Considering his immense power and the state of this world, things are about to get far more complicated than he imagined. After realizing how rare and incredibly strong the elemental fox is, Shin begins to worry. If word spreads about her, people might attack him to steal her away. To prevent that, he decides to form a bond with the fox through a process called taming. Once a beast is tamed, only its owner can see its stats. This way, everyone else will simply think she's an ordinary fox. He turns to the fox and asks if she would like to be tamed by him. To his surprise, the fox seems willing, trusting him completely after he saved her life. Shin begins the process, and after a short while, the fox is successfully tamed. He names his new companion Yuzu and heads back to the capital. At the guild, the two receptionists both rush to take his report, arguing over who should handle it. Shin, uninterested in their bickering, walks over to the notice board. There, he spots an unusual quest, one posted directly by the church. It doesn't reveal any details, only requesting that a skill-holder adventurer approach them. It seems suspicious, but Shin's curiosity gets the better of him. Besides, it's also a good excuse to visit Millie. He takes the notice and heads to the church. Upon arrival, he's greeted by a nun named Tria, who asks why he's there. Shin explains honestly that he doesn't know much about the church, but came after seeing the quest. Tria immediately becomes interested and asks if he's a skill holder. Shin replies that he'll answer her questions, but he wants to learn something in return. Specifically, he wants to know about Millie, the beast girl. Tria looks suspicious but agrees to take him to a guest room while she checks. As he waits, Shin wonders what kind of powers Millie might have, especially since she somehow knew about the fox before he even found her. After a while, the door opens and Millie runs in, happily hugging Shin. Seeing this, Tria relaxes a little, noting that Millie usually dislikes strangers. She takes it as proof that Shin isn't a bad person. Once things calm down, Shin asks if they can discuss the quest. Tria nods and Shin looks to Millie, asking if Yuzu is the same fox she told him to save. Millie examines Yuzu carefully before smiling and confirming it's the one she sensed was in danger. She thanks him for saving her. Shin smiles and tells Yuzu to thank Millie, since she was the one who helped them find each other. Yuzu bows politely, and Millie beams. Turning back to Tria, Shin asks about the quest. Tria explains that only skill holders can see it, which makes Shin realize that while skills were common in his previous world, they must be rare here. She goes on to say the church is searching for a particular skill holder who can teach one of their nuns a special ability. Shin asks if it's healing or cursing, but Tria shakes her head. Due to specific circumstances, they need someone who knows the Purify skill. She doubts Shin could possibly know it, but to her shock, he casually says that learning it is quite a hassle. Surprised, she asks if he really knows the skill. Shin confirms it, and Tria immediately asks if he'll accept the quest. He agrees, but only if he can get something in return. Not gold or money, but information. Before she misunderstands, he clarifies that he simply wants to know more about the church and about Millie's powers. Tria hesitates, clearly unsure if she should share such secrets, but Millie speaks up, saying it's fine and that Shin can be trusted. Reluctantly, Tria agrees. She tells Shin that Millie possesses the power of an oracle. She can sometimes predict the future, and her predictions have never been wrong. Because of this, the church keeps her power a secret. If people found out, they might try to capture her for their own purposes. To prevent that, Will, a feared warrior, usually stays nearby to protect her. His presence alone keeps most threats away. When Shin asks who's supposed to learn Purify, Tria explains that it's not her, but the granddaughter of the former priest, for religious reasons. Later that day, Shin tries to spend time with the other children at the church, but they're all too focused on Yuzu, completely ignoring him and Millie. Shin has no idea how to connect with them, while Millie grows impatient and decides she wants to pet Yuzu. She calls the fox over, picks her up, and starts cuddling her affectionately. The other children watch in amazement and jealousy. When Shin tries to talk to them, they scatter, except for one older boy who approaches and asks if Shin is the one sent to help them. Shin nods, confirming that he accepted the quest, and asks for more information about it. The little girl tells him that currently the church doesn't have a priest, so there are two candidates. The most promising candidate is a man who wants to destroy the orphanage completely and make his own house here. Shin asks, why would he want to destroy the orphanage, and the kid replies that because they all hate this man, and he is also a money-grubbing pig. Shin asks, why can't Traya become the priest? But the kid tells him that only a person with a purified skill can become a priest. The other candidate is Rash, the Letu priest's granddaughter. She pleads with him to help them, and he tells them not to worry. Later that day, he meets up with Rash, who seems to be a nice girl, but pretty clumsy and careless. He introduces himself and claims that he will teach her the purification magic, but warns her that it will totally depend on how she practices and whether she is able to complete the training. He then asks whether they know any places where high-level monsters spawn, and Traya replies that there is a very well-known spot in the faraway forest. Before he can get any further information, the door opens, and Will enters the door with a scowl on his face and asks why did he take the quest. He asks what he asks for in return, and Shin honestly tells him about his deal with Traya. Will thinks that they are trusting him a bit too much, as she is still a non-Aminu adventurer. But Millie insists that Shin is fine. Will still puts his lance on his throat and warns him that if any information about Millie's power get leaked, he will kill him with his own hands. Will then asks more about the purifying skill and how to learn it, so Shin explains that you first need to have Holy Gem with you, which is very hard to find. After that, you need to defeat over 200 undead monsters, and each should be at least level 150. The good thing is that only the killing blow matters, so his plans to weaken the monsters to the brink of death so that Rash can easily kill them off. Even Will is shocked at this because level 150 monsters are no joke. Shin, however, reassures them that he can do this and insists that the harder part would have been to find a holy gem, but thanks to the power of plot armor, he already has the gem, so they can begin the process. Immediately, they decide to start the quest at night, and all of them go back to have some rest. While Shin was walking down to have some food, he gets ambushed by Will, who is waiting for him, and he takes him into a tavern for a talk. They have a deep bro talk, while Will explains that according to myths, every so often a person known as the Chosen One is born, who has all the knowledge and memories from his previous life and is extremely strong. Shin wonder, so this sounds similar to his reincarnation story, when suddenly he gets a message from Tiara, who claims that Rai replied and told Shin that she wants to meet him the moment she comes back from her job. After that, Shin takes out this letter, a recommendation to flex on Will, but surprisingly, even he has one. They touch tips together, which strengthens their bond even more, and a couple of hours later, head down to the Dark Forest. They walk for a while, after which they finally find their first wave of monsters. The dog monster attacks them, but Shin immediately freezes them in the air and tells Rash to use her heal magic to kill them. She was unsure at first, but quickly deals with them. Will takes care of the next wave of skeletons with his lance, and Rash destroys them as well. After killing a bunch of waves, they finally head over to the deeper ends, where Will use his adventures card to open the barrier, which is put in place to stop new adventures. As this area is dangerous, they enter the area, and immediately Shin notices some monsters, and his minimap will goes ahead to deal with the ones ahead, while Shin weakens the ones nearby and lets Rash end them. He tells her that by the time she learns to purify magic, she might become level 115 herself. Finally, Will comes back the bunch of corpses and hands it over to Rash, who screams in horror at this sight. Meanwhile, much deeper in the forest, the princess and her party are dealing with a giant monster. She uses her giant sword to finish the demon and realizes that without this sword, which came through her window, killing this monster would have been very difficult. She then tells some of her party members to help the other groups. She runs over to the nearby lake. The other party seems to be on their last leg, barely managing to survive against the giant monster. The white-haired lady enters the fray and uses her ultra-fast strikes to slice the monster in pieces and breaks its core in half. She lands on the ground, and her hair starts flying as the knight realizes that it's the famous white-haired elf. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe for part 4, and make sure to check out this brand new anime about a weird loser who turns out to be the strongest fighter in high school.